Summer is such a fun time. We have more free time to spend with our families and more time to do the things that we love most. Now, I know that this summer will look a little bit different since we're social distancing to stay healthy, but that doesn't mean that the fun has to stop. Today, I have a super cool activity for you that will make your own backyard seem almost as cool as summer camp at Rock Eagle. I know that it's hot outside, but we can use that heat to our advantage to power some really cool science projects. But first, let's learn a little bit more about heat and energy. Heat, as you may already know, is a type of energy. Heat energy is also called thermal energy. One source of thermal energy is the sun. Thermal energy from the sun is called solar energy. Today, we can use solar panels to convert solar energy into a clean source of power for everything from park lamps to vehicles. Since the heat from the sun will never run out, it is considered a renewable energy source and is a much better choice for our environment than using fossil fuels, since there is a limited amount of fossil fuels and they can emit toxins into the air when used. Using the sun as a source of energy isn't a new idea. People and the environment have been relying on solar energy long before we discovered the necessary technology to convert radiation from the sun into power. Plants use solar energy to make food for themselves through a process called photosynthesis, where they convert water from the soil and carbon dioxide from the air into glucose, which is a sugar-rich substance that keeps them healthy, and oxygen, which we breathe. And for centuries, humans have made use of the sun's energy for drying clothes, heating their homes, dehydrating fruits and meats, heating water, and more. Solar energy has played an important role in our past, and it has the potential to play an even larger role in powering our future. So today, we're going to celebrate solar energy through a delicious activity, making s'mores in our very own solar oven. But before we begin, let's gather our materials, tie up our hair, and wash our hands. So my hair is back and my hands are clean. Now we can begin building our solar oven. Now this first step requires the help of an adult because you are going to be using a box cutter or an X-Acto knife to cut a square out of the top of your pizza box. Now if you don't have a clean pizza box, you can use a cereal box or a shoe box or anything of a similar size to build your solar oven. So before we begin cutting, we're going to take a ruler and a pencil and we're going to draw a border around the top of our box. We want to leave about 1 inch to 2 inches, depending on how big your box is, of a border around the edges. So because my pizza box is kind of big, I'm going to leave a 2-inch border. So I'm just gonna mark my 2 inches all around and draw a big square. Now it doesn't have to be perfect. Just do the best you can. Once you trace your square, you can begin cutting. So again, very carefully and with an adult supervision or help, you're going to cut into the square. Now you don't want to do this directly on the table because you're going to leave a bunch of scratches and that is not good. So I'm actually leaving my pizza box closed just like this, and all of this extra space in the box is going to allow me to not, damage the table. So we can begin cutting very carefully and with an adult's help. It's okay if the box bends a little bit. It won't cause too much damage to our solar oven. Okay, so I have my square cut out of the top and we are going to move on to the next step. So we're going to cover one side of this square in aluminum foil. Now the aluminum foil is easy enough to manipulate, so you can just kind of fold it around the edges like this. If you feel that that is not secure enough, you can actually tape it in place. So I'm gonna go ahead and tape mine in place, and then we'll move on to the next step. So the next step is we're going to cover the inside bottom of our box in tin foil. So all of these edges and the bottom part here, all we have to do is put the aluminum foil on and kind of push it into the corners and bend it around the edges. And again, aluminum foil is very easy to manipulate, so this shouldn't be too difficult. Now, just like we did with the square, if you feel that this isn't secure enough, you can tape it around the edges just to be safe. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that real quick. So I just finished taping down the foil, and I bet you're wondering why we use aluminum foil. So basically, the reason we use it is because it's really shiny and reflective, so any light, see I'm reflecting it right there, any light that hits it, like the sunlight, is going to be reflected onto our s'mores. And if it's reflecting light, then we know it's also reflecting heat. So this is how we create our solar oven. We're lining it with this reflective material. So now moving on to the next step, we're going to cover the opening in our box with plastic wrap. Now the plastic wrap, we want to make sure we have a nice seal on it, because when we put this outside and we close the box, this is going to keep anything from getting into our box and onto our s'mores. So we want to create a nice tight seal. We're just going to put our plastic wrap over, and we're going to tape it in place on all 4 sides. So I finished taping the plastic wrap. I made sure that all of the edges and even the corners are secure with tape, so nothing can get in or out of it. And it's just a little bit loose, I don't know if you can tell, but that's okay. As long as it's tight around the edges, we are good to go. So the next step is to close our pizza box, and we're going to attach this flap. So we want the aluminum foil part facing down into our box. We're just gonna put it right over the opening where we cut it, and we're gonna tape it on one side to create a flap. So let's go ahead and tape it. Dropped my tape. So I've created my flap, and this is going to allow us to direct the light from the sun into our box and onto our s'mores. So now we have to find a way of lifting the flap up and making it sturdy. So the way that we do this is with some bendy straws. So you're going to take 2 of your 4 bendy straws, and take 2 of them, and on one, you're going to cut down the length of the bendy straw. So it's kind of small, so you gotta be careful not to get your fingers. But if you put like the skinnier part of the scissors in there, you can just cut down the length. You don't wanna go past the bendy part, so the part where it actually bends, you're gonna cut just to that. Okay, don't actually cut the bendy part. Then you're going to take your other straw, the one that's not cut, and you're going to insert it inside of the cut straw. The reason we cut the straw open is because it creates a little more room for us to slide this extra straw in. So this creates kind of like a piston type thing where you can slide it to make it taller or make it shorter. This is going to allow you to actually adjust the flap based on the angle of the sun. So we're going to do this one more time with our other 2 straws. You're going to cut one and then insert the other one into it. So from here, we're going to bend the bendy part of our straws to create sort of a long U shape. It's not really a U because it's angular. We're going to bend the straws to create this like part of a square shape. So they should both look like this. Then we're going to tape them to our box. So we can open up the flap, and we're going to point the little bended part in towards the flap, and we're going to tape it down So this is going right onto the lid of the box. And it might need a few pieces of tape to secure it. And you can see where I taped it right there. So it's right on the lid next to where the plastic wrap is. We're going to repeat this with the other side. Okay, so the next part is we're going to tape this to the flap. Now, once we tape it on there, we'll be able to adjust the angle of the flap with our straws. So here we have our flap. This is going to allow us to direct the angle of the sun into the box. If you don't have straws, you can use like a stick or something, but the only problem is that won't allow you to adjust the angle. So the last step is if we open our box, we're going to place a piece of black construction paper in the center bottom of our box. We don't need to tape it down or anything because we're going to make our s'mores directly on this paper. So if the marshmallow or the chocolate gets all leaky and gets onto the paper, we can switch it out. So you don't need to tape this down. The reason that we're using black construction paper is because the color black absorbs more light than any other color. And since it's absorbing more light, we know that it's also absorbing more heat. So the way that the solar oven is going to work is the light is going to be reflected from the aluminum foil and absorbed onto this black construction paper. So our s'mores are going to get hit with the sun from the foil, and then the black construction paper is going to keep that sun and all that heat there with the s'mores, allowing them to cook and melt. So this is how our solar oven is going to work. Now, if it's sunny outside, we can take this outside and we can make our s'mores today, but if it's more of a cloudy day, then we want to do that, we can save this for another day where it's more sunny, because the clouds block a lot of the sunlight and a lot of the heat from the sun, so the s'mores are either going to take a very, very long time to cook, or it's just not really going to melt the right way. But remember, even though it's cloudy and it doesn't feel so hot outside, if you go outside on a cloudy day, you still need to wear sunscreen because the sun's rays are still making it through the clouds, just not enough to melt our marshmallows. But it's a pretty sunny day today, so I'm going to go ahead and make my s'mores. But before I do that, I have to gather my ingredients, wash my hands, and make sure that my work area is clean since I'm bringing food into the mix. So let's get started on our s'mores. So I cleaned my work area and I have nice clean hands, so we're going to assemble our s'mores so we can make them in the solar oven today. So the first thing is graham crackers. So however many s'mores you want to make, you're just going to break your graham crackers in half so you get a good little sandwich pair. Now the marshmallows are going to take a little while to melt outside. One way that you can speed up that process is by cutting them in half. Now make sure that you have an adult helping you with this and make sure that you're using proper cutting technique. So we don't want to have our fingers anywhere near the blade when we're cutting because that makes it very dangerous. We're going to hold our knife like this with one finger on top and the rest of the fingers nice and safe away from the blade. And we're going to do sort of a bear claw method where you keep your hand like this, put it right in front of where you want to cut, and you're cutting right next to it. So keeping your fingers like this rather than like this helps prevent you from cutting yourself. So we're just gonna saw that marshmallow in half just so it melts a little bit more quickly. We can take our chocolate bar and put it right on top of our graham cracker. We're going to put the marshmallow on top, and then we're going to set aside the other half of the graham cracker, or you can put it underneath because we want the sun to hit the marshmallow and the chocolate directly. So you can either put this on another plate and save it, or just kind of set it underneath, and this is going to go right into our solar oven. So I'm going to make a few more of these, and then we'll put them outside. So now that I've got my s'mores put together and in here, I'm gonna make sure that the box is closed all the way, and we're gonna move this outside and put it in a sunny location. So it's a very sunny day out here. You want to put your solar oven directly in the sun, and you can adjust the angle of the straws to make sure that the sun is reflecting into it. So at this time of day, I've got the sun kind of behind me over there. So I have it so the sun's facing directly into the solar oven. And I'm just going to adjust the straws a little bit since the sun is kind of high up in the sky. I want to get as much of that heat and light as possible so it's going directly onto my s'mores. I'm going to leave this here for a little while. I recommend checking it every 10 to 15 minutes. Since we cut those marshmallows in half, it probably won't take as long as if you left a full marshmallow, so that's really going to change how long it takes. So make sure you check on your s'mores every 10 to 15 minutes and we'll look at our progress. It's been about 45 minutes since we put these in the sun. We can see that the chocolate is starting to melt. So let's bring these s'mores inside and talk a little bit more about our solar oven. So we're back inside, we've washed our hands, and we've taken a s'more out of our solar oven, and it looks and smells so good. Now you can always experiment with the cooking times. If you wanted your marshmallow a little bit more melted, you can add it before you put the chocolate in. That's up to you to experiment with and really figure out which method works best. But while we enjoy our s'mores, let's talk a little bit more about the science behind how our solar oven actually works. So as we discussed earlier in the video, heat is a form of energy, and heat energy is called thermal energy. And a specific type of thermal energy comes from the sun, and that's called solar energy, which we're probably already pretty familiar with since we know we have solar panels and it can power lamps and cars, just like we talked about earlier on in the video. Now, solar energy reaches us in the form of light and radiation from the sun. So for this solar oven, we used shiny foil to reflect the light from the sun into our solar oven. And we lined the inside of our solar oven with the foil as well. So the light is sort of reflecting back and forth and really trapping the heat in the oven. Now the black construction paper also helped because out of all of the colors, black absorbs the most light. And as we know, light and heat go hand in hand. So while the black paper is absorbing all of that light, it's also absorbing all of that heat. So the foil is putting the light and the heat in the box, and the black construction paper is keeping it there. So while our solar oven is not powerful enough to boil water or safely cook chicken, it is certainly powerful enough to melt some chocolate and some marshmallows, as long as you have enough direct sunlight, because that means you have plenty of solar energy.